Starscream here, and I am the Lord and Master of the Geekcast Radio Network. Don't tell Megatron.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cinema Geeks. I am one of your Cinema Geeks OptimusSolo, and joining me for today's episode are all of my fellow Cinema Geeks, starting with HardCandiMandi. Hello, Amanda.
Hey, glad you remember my name this time, sir.
Amanda's a little bit under the weather here, so you'll have to excuse her if she coughs, sneezes, sniffles, or just otherwise sounds nasally.
Don't apologize for me, okay? I am unapologetic right now about this nasally mess, okay? Did what I could.
Also joining us is MovieRevolt Dan. How's it going, Dan?
Great. How's it going?
It's not going too bad here. Relatively busy week, movie-wise, but we're hanging in there. Oh, let me get the last Cinema Geek in here before I go on my rant. But also with us is Mr. Fridley Cent. How's it going, Matt?
I like rants.
How's Zelda going?
I mean, I haven't beaten it, but I do have logged all my hours of life in it.
All of the hours. So it's just working Zelda at this point?
Oh, yeah. And sleep and eat getting in there, too, sometimes.
Gotcha. So, recently we had a couple different movie trips. We actually went to the movies 2 days in a row. On Monday, we met some people and watched Beauty and the Beast and did something we don't normally do, which is watch it in 3D, which usually makes Amanda motion sick, but she took her pill, was ready to go, and we watched the whole spectacle in 3D. And then the following day we had a free screening tickets to go see Gifted, starring Chris Evans. So obviously it's a free screening, so that means it's going to be sold out. There's not going to be any seats left, etc., etc. So we've already learned in the past our lesson, because we've been to probably 5 of these. And at one point, we tried to get there 10 minutes before or 15 minutes before, and we're turned away, obviously, because they were sold out already. So we learned our lesson. So we got there fairly early, and
40 minutes early.
40 minutes early. So we walked in, and there was basically maybe 5 people in the theater at that point. There just happened to be 2 people in the normal seat that we would select, all the way to the back, all the way to the middle, which is no big deal. And then there was probably one couple right smack dab in the middle of the theater, and then maybe one other couple towards the front. Not a big deal. So we walked up, went, left 2 seats in between the people that were all the way to the back and in the middle. Put Amanda's jacket and my car keys down, and we decided let's just go ahead and go grab some snacks or whatever, because we hadn't eaten anything for dinner or whatnot. So decided to do that, and we wanted to get in and get seats first, so we didn't bother about snacks in the beginning. So we left our jacket and keys and went out to get some snacks. Came back in. Literally only about 4 more people have been in the theater at this point. So instead of 3 couples, now it's 5 couples, including an older couple sitting exactly where Amanda's jacket and my keys had been. So they literally got into the theater, saw a completely empty theater, walked up to those seats, saw a jacket and a pair of car keys there, picked them up, moved them, and sat in those seats.
Where did they put your keys and stuff at?
Just to the whatever seat was next to them then, after they both sat down, the seat directly next to them. It's so,
I'd say you're brave for leaving your car keys, because, I mean, that's very trusting.
That was exactly where my mind went, was oh, his car keys got stolen this week.
No, but so we literally walk up to them and grab the jacket and the car keys, which are in the seat right next to them. They don't say a word, don't even make acknowledgement of anything, and then we went to the opposite side of the 2 that were in the direct middle, so we just basically went to the right side instead of the left side or whatever. And I don't know, but it ticked me off beyond belief. So we still had 30 minutes to wait for the movie, and I just sat sideways and stared at them for 30 minutes. I don't know what got into me, but I was...
It was creepy, but something needed to happen. Then I was making some rude comments with Kevin's rude comments, some hit-breaking things, and, all that good stuff. Trying to make them feel super uncomfortable.
And they right before the movie, they even made a point to each go to the bathroom, but only one at a time, to make sure they didn't lose their seats. But it was bizarre. I don't know. I've never had a problem with doing that, so I guess next time we learned our lesson, one of us has to stay in the seats while the other one gets the food.
Even in Rockford, the old people are shady. Like...
It was quite the event, and there were words later on the way out, but we won't get into that.
Started a conversation in the parking lot as we waited for them to leave the theater, and then we followed them into the parking lot.
Not quite. I waited for you to get done in the bathroom, and it just happened timing-wise. That we ended up walking out the door at the same time. So... Anyways.
Old people, just die. Just die. You don't need to be driving. You don't need to be in the theater. You don't need to be touching my shit. Just fucking die.
Jesus. I think what made me mad the most is when you go to these free screenings or anything like that where you don't have to pay for a ticket, I don't know. I guess I'm somewhat offended then if you don't buy anything. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be because I guess, we spend enough at the theater, so, you get a free movie, you don't have to spend anything, just a free date type of thing. But in my mind, if you don't have to spend money for a ticket, like, you could at least get a drink. And they were, like, one of those couples that was not spending any money that day.
But yeah, we spent how much money? Like 4 hot dogs and nachos and drinks. And
we hadn't eaten, so.
Yeah, it was a mess.
So that was our experience. I'm sure it was, we blew it somewhat out of proportion, but I was just completely thrown off that you would walk into an empty theater and take the one seat that has something in it. But
yeah, that's nuts.
But the movie was fine, and we had a good time. We were able to forget it the rest of the way through. So, but it was an interesting experience nonetheless. So, today we're going to be bringing you guys a kind of a special episode. We're going to take a break from the video game / Hayao Miyazaki series that we have going on, as well as a break from the reveal of our top 100 personal films of all time. And just going to try to do something fun. We sprinkled in a regular movie review the other week with Logan, and now we're going to go and do something we used to do quite a bit, which is kind of go off the cuff here and do a little movie game style episode. So the thought process is obviously it is in the middle of March Madness currently, so everybody's all about the NCAA college basketball tournament.
Everybody?
Although I will say, not proudly, but I have not seen a single minute of a single game this year, and that's probably a first in my entire adult life. So
don't look at me like it's my fault.
Not your fault.
I haven't seen a Blackhawks game in 2 years. Okay.
So I have no idea what's going on with the basketball tournament, but I know this time of year it's fun for a lot of different people to do their own types of March Madness style tournaments, whether it's in forums or blogs or podcasts, different things like that. I know Film Spotting does their what do they call it? Their March Madness version every year, which is fun to listen to. I know we've done GCRN Wars episodes before that kind of follow a similar format. So that's kind of the idea of what we're going to be doing today. Matt and Amanda really don't have a clue what's going on because Dan and I were sneaky and kind of decided everything on the DL without you guys. But that way we'll get some authentic reactions nonetheless. Dan, why don't you let them know what the theme is going to be for today and kind of what we're trying to get at.
Just to let you know, I didn't know you didn't know, so Kevin was being extra sneaky. So the basic idea is what Kevin just said. We were thinking of doing something tournament-wise and trying to think of how can we get something that would be easy for us to all do. We would all have some idea or opinions on. So we decided to do best performances of comic book character, heroes and villains. So we've selected 16 different people with a few play-in options for those characters that have been played by multiple people and multiple times. And the idea is to face those off ones against another, determine which person you thought gave the better performance to determine who exactly is given the best superhero / supervillain performance of all time.
And Dan, just to kind of even further clarify that, especially for Matt and Amanda, should they be looking at this more from an angle as far as who fit the character the best, as far as who personified, the look or the style of what that comic book character represented, or more strictly based on the actual acting and the performance given within those films that they appeared in? Or a combination of both?
I think you use whatever you want to use, because that's always been the most fun thing to do. So if it's like, I'm going to choose that guy because they use the best costume or the best hairstyle, but no, I think it'd be I'm thinking you would go with what you feel the best performance overall, because there's probably a few we'll get to that maybe approach the character differently, but also cause that character to change because of that. So I don't know, but I think it's subjective, so it's whatever you want it to be.
Fair enough. So Amanda, you can use any criteria you would like.
I was planning on doing that anyways, bro. So,
so how this is going to work is we like Dan said, we selected 16. We're going to go one by one through the first round, and then after a brief discussion, we're each going to be able to cast a vote. Obviously, there is 4 of us, so there is the possibility that we may have a couple ties. All right, so we're going to try this and see how it works on the fly, but we're going to give everybody a couple tie-breaking votes. We're going to start with 2 and see if that works, or if we end up with a lot more ties than I'm anticipating. So anytime there's a tie, if you feel very strongly about that matchup, you're more than welcome to use your tie-breaking vote. You'll each have 2 of them, and whoever speaks up first will have the power to use that. Nobody can veto that. All right. Outside of that, if nobody's using their tie-breaking vote, then it'll just take a quick additional discussion until somebody decides to switch their vote over to the other camp. And we'll see if that can work, or if we'll forever be in battle here today as we try to get to our best comic book performance.
Man, can't handle a forever battle, all right? We gotta do this, y'all.
And like Dan mentioned, there are going to be some play-in games like the tournament likes to do. So just to get into the tournament, we have to decide a couple of these matchups in order to determine who is actually involved as we get into our first round matchups. So let's start with the play-in matchups. There are 4 of them. And let's start with one that would pit 2 heroes against each other that played the same character. I won't tell you what seed they're going to be in, because we did kind of somewhat seed these. But let's just start with the world of Batman. And we have to decide who's going to be actually in the tournament. Is it going to be Christian Bale's Batman, or is it going to be Michael Keaton's?
Oh shit, Michael Keaton.
Amanda, would you like to start the thought process on this one?
I'm gonna say Michael Keaton. I don't know. I think he's one of my favorite Batmans ever. Even his mouth, I'm like, that's fucking Batman when you see him in his costume. I think that I liked his voice. I liked his swagger and his style. I think that he wasn't the most good-looking Bruce Wayne, but I still think he fit as that character.
All right, so you're leaning towards Mr. Keaton.
Yes.
Dan, what do you think about that?
Man, Mr. Keaton, or because a part of this too, it's do you think about who plays Bruce Wayne as well?
Right.
Is that part of it too? Or should I vote for George Clooney just to be funny? No. So I know a lot of people hate the Christian Bale voice because it can get a little bit ridiculous at times, and a little grainy, and a little bit maybe unnecessary, but I don't know. I felt like he was the Batman we needed at the time, considering the awfulness that was Batman and Robin. So I think Batman needed to get his grip back, and he did that. Unfortunately, I do think that Keaton represents the character a little bit more, and a little bit has a more nuanced performance. There's more to his character, where Christian Bale, I don't know if he wasn't often the least interesting, not the least interesting, but I don't think he ever really made the character into something that made you love Batman more, I guess. I don't know. My words are not working as well as I would like them to. He was good, but I always thought he was never the best performance in the movie he was in. Typically, it was
right.
Heath Ledger, what have you. Whereas and Keaton was, or at least complimented the character more. And I think because of that, and I think he I'm going to go with Keaton, especially because it was a very surprised performance for him, considering that's the first time he ever really did a role like that wasn't comedic. But I like Bale. I don't dislike Bale, but I think Keaton's just a notch better.
Amanda, you had mentioned the actual Bruce Wayne. Do you think Christian Bale was a better Bruce Wayne?
I think looks-wise, he was a better Bruce Wayne.
Okay. Matt, where do you sit on this debate here? Are you a Christian Bale fan or a Michael Keaton fan?
These are the only Batmans in the tournament.
Correct.
Okay. They're not the Batman I would pick, because my heart forever goes to Adam West.
True.
But
no, I can see that. I think we were more so looking at like the major feature
serious.
films. Yeah.
They're both serious, and he's silly. But I think just if only because I've gone on record in like the last record we did saying that the Christian Bale movies were trash, which I think might have been a little bit of a strong opinion. They're not the worst movies ever. They're just not what I want from a Batman movie, and they have some issues that I don't like. But I don't remember ever having an issue with Keaton. It's like I gotta go Keaton. Like I love that with '89 Batman movie. Like it's so good.
Amanda just did like a fist bump.
It's like a yes
It's
fist
like a
bump.
yes fist. Yeah. So she's excited for that one. That means that I don't need to make a decision. So maybe I should just vote for Christian Bale just so he doesn't feel left out.
Fuck that dude.
Jesus. All right. So strong words to Christian Bale, I guess. Amanda showing some true colors here.
What?
You like Christian Bale too, though.
Not like a lot.
Okay. All right. No love for Christian Bale over on this side. So that means Michael Keaton's going to advance into the tournament as far as that play-in game or matchup goes. We have another one featuring a couple well-known heroes. See how we all fare with this one. One of them more recently probably in our minds as we all just saw Logan. Let's compare Mr. Patrick Stewart to James McAvoy as far as Professor X. And which of those two versions do you prefer? Amanda, you started last time, so let's start somewhere else this time. Dan, what do you think about James McAvoy versus Patrick Stewart?
This really breaks my heart because I really love both of these guys. And they bring something very different, I think, to the role. And it's tough. I mean, if you're looking at who embodies the character more, it's probably Patrick Stewart because let's face it, like, you know, it was like the role he was born to play. I mean, he looks just like that comic book version of Xavier. Before X-Men was ever made, people were fan casting, and it was always like, okay, well, who's Charles Xavier? It's Patrick Stewart, and then that actually ended up happening, and he's been amazing in the role. I do like what McAvoy brings to the character, especially in First Class, where he's a little bit more of a playboy. You see more of a fun and carefree side of Xavier. But then in Days and Future Past, you really get that more of a emotionally beaten character as he's trying to come to grips with the responsibility of the world that is at his feet. But I think honestly, what takes it, and maybe it's unfair because it's so fresh in my mind, is with Logan in the last performance of Stewart, which is arguably one of the best performances he's done on film. And I think looking at the history he's had with that character and the story he's been able to tell, it's probably been the most complete. So because of that, and because of just, you know, I'm just thinking of the moment on the bed, this is bringing really strong in my mind. So I'm going to go with Stewart.
All right, one vote for Patrick Stewart. Matt, are you going to make it 2 votes for Patrick Stewart, or are you going to even things out?
Well, this one's a fun one because Patrick Stewart is Picard. Like Patrick Stewart is Xavier. He's one of the best actors we've ever had, like ever.
Yeah.
But like the McElroy movie or McAvoy. Sorry, too much my brother and me. James McAvoy is in so many better X-Men movies. Like all of his X-Men movies are better than almost every Patrick Stewart X-Men movie. And so it's like part of me like, well, he's got way better movies, so he's probably the better one. But I mean, that's writer, that's director, that's co-stars. I think Dan's got it. Like Logan might be the one that tips it for Patrick Stewart for me because that movie he did so amazing. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go Patrick Stewart, but like cautiously.
All right, so 2 votes, even though a lot of love for James McAvoy from both people. 2 votes for Patrick Stewart. Amanda, 3 for 3, or are you shedding some love over to the McAvoy as far as an actual vote?
I think Dan definitely hit it on the mark that Patrick Stewart is the dude for Professor X, but McAvoy brings some really cool stuff to the role too, and he definitely is his own Professor X. I really dig his character arc and all that good stuff, and I think he's got some awesome moments, some great lines. I love seeing young Professor X in his element and coming into his own and all that stuff, but Professor Xavier's got to be Patrick Stewart.
All right. That makes it 3 for 3. I'm just along for the ride, guys. So I would say, like Matt, I would agree that Patrick Stewart's one of my favorite actors that I've ever seen. And so if you said Patrick Stewart or any actor, I would probably pick Patrick Stewart. And it just happens that this one, they both played the same character. I do like James McAvoy, though. I mean, I agree with everything you guys have said, but I think this is a slam dunk for Patrick Stewart. I think he just... you make a good point, Matt, that a lot of people would point to First Class and Days of Future Past as probably 2 of the best films. I think, like Dan was saying, though, the addition of Logan and where I would place that amongst the franchise helps out a lot. So it's not going to dissuade me from voting for Patrick Stewart. So we'll make it all 4 of us for that. Going to the third play-in matchup to see who's going to be actually in the tournament. It only makes sense if we're talking about Professor X to also talk about Magneto. So, Ian McKellen, Michael Fassbender. Amanda?
Oh shit, I'm gonna go with Fassbender on this one. I think that his character is so much more dynamic, so much more full, so much more fleshed out, and his younger self, and I think his emotions are so much more displayed, and I really, really dig the Fassbender performance of it.
So interesting. 4 votes for the original Professor X, starting off with Magneto immediately going to the newer version. Matt, do you echo that? Can you vote against Ian McKellen?
See, that was exactly where my mind went, was like I think she might be right about all the things she just said, but it's Sir Ian McKellen. Like, I don't know, like in Days of Future Past, when he shows up at the beginning, like, I don't know, there's like this level of grandeur and stuff where it's like, yeah, that's Magneto, and everyone should be afraid that he's not on their side. Like, anyone who's not on his side is on the wrong side. Like, I love what he's done with the part. But also, I think that what I just said about McAvoy applies here. Like, those other movies, the newer movies, are so much better, and the actors are allowed to do more, and they're given more to work with. I think I'm going to reluctantly go with Fassbender, even though, I mean, it's Ian McKellen.
Similar to what we had with Patrick Stewart, obviously, 2 old-time classic actors against these young bucks here. Fassbender effect, though, it might be in effect. Dan, has Ian McKellen had as strong of emotional moments as what we've seen with Fassbender in a few of those films? What do you think of this one?
Not necessarily. I don't think. Like, I've loved him as that character, but when he's that character, you know, Magneto, Eric Lencher's more established. He's kind of gone through it all. He doesn't really have the lack of control as the Fassbender. He's not going through, you know, those difficult times as much. He's really more kind of dedicated. He knows the game. He knows how to play people. He has some great moments, he has a presence about him. He has that charisma you need from a great villain or great antagonist, in some cases protagonist. But I think Fassbender, like, for me, X-Men First Class was his coming out party. Like, he did other movies before then, but this was like the first like big film, like, blockbuster that he did, and I think it was his announcement to the world that made Fassbender into one of the biggest stars today. There's so many great moments, and I'll say some of them because he's moving forward, because I'm voting for Fassbender as well. And I love what he does with the character. And again, it's not necessarily that I think his performance is better per se, but he's given more to do because in a lot of ways, First Class is his movie. Well, him and obviously McAvoy, but I think he's the emotional core of that film, and because of that, like McAvoy like nails it out of the park. He owns like every moment he's on screen, and because of that, I'm going to go with him for this.
All right, so this is a bizarre turn of events so far. You don't usually get some podcasters or just geeks in general around to vote on things and have this much agreement. So all 3 battles so far, 4 have been unanimous, and I'm going to go with this one as well. I think Fassbender takes this one in an easier way than Stewart over McAvoy to me. Like this one, I do like Ian McKellen, but I can't think of anything as powerful that he did in that role. He might embody the role and have that look and have the intimidation factor and kind of the presence of the character, but I just think if we're looking at maybe performance, if you take that type of thing, I think Fassbender's been able to do more, and I guess some of that is granted, based on the writing and some of the things that are revealed and whatnot, but some of those moments, man, just blew me away for Fassbender, and I don't think you're allowed, if you're a movie geek, to vote against Fassbender in anything. I think it's kind of a rule. So let's make it 4 for 4 for Mr. Michael Fassbender entering into the tournament, which means there's only one more playing game. And that would be I'm thinking this might be the first time we aren't unanimous, but let's see. Let's go to, we had Batman as one of the playing games. Let's go to the Joker as one of the other ones. And you have to decide Jack Nicholson or Heath Ledger. Matt, where do you go with this one?
Ooh, I don't know. So I feel like The Dark Knight was more or less ruined for me by everyone just like talking about it, like, oh, it's the best movie ever, it's the best movie ever. And then I saw it like 8 months later, and I was like, yeah, it's an okay movie. It's way better than Batman Begins, way better. But like overhype really burned it for me. But the thing is that it didn't make Heath Ledger's performance any less just amazing. Like, no matter what I expected from that movie, he still just gave a stellar performance. And I've got problems with the script. I've got problems with Christian Bale's performance, but Heath Ledger just, like, that's it. Like, you couldn't have chose a better movie to go out on than that one for him. So I'm gonna have to give it to him, even though I don't like the Joker choices they made. Like, that's not the Joker to me. Is that character? But I think his performance was just so good that I'm gonna give it to him.
Amanda, agree? Disagree? Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger.
I do like Heath Ledger's Joker a lot more. I think that the anarchist version of the Joker was pretty cool, and it definitely fit in the world that they built with that. His performance, everybody knows, was just spectacular and amazing. He gave every piece of himself to that role, and I don't think you can deny that he just blew that sucker out of the water. And Jack Nicholson was a more cartoon caricature version of the Joker. He might be more true, to the look and the feel of, the early comic books and the early Batman, but I think that Heath Ledger changed the game with that one.
Okay, so 2 votes towards Heath Ledger. 3 votes, or are you going to jump to the other side, Dan? Who do you like better as that character?
Yeah, man, and you thought there might be disagreement, but there really isn't any here. Honestly, I like Jack Nicholson, but I don't like his performance as a Joker. I don't know holds up that great. I don't know. There are moments that kind of bug me a little bit, and Nicholson. There's a lot of drama regarding him taking in that performance, and I feel there's moments in time where you can tell he's reining it in a little bit, but not that it's awful, but there are times where it's just like I don't know, like this he's maybe overplaying it more so than he needs to. Ledger's performance is iconic and will always be so. But yeah, I'll just hold off as we will be talking about him probably a lot more coming up. So
All right, so 3 for 3. Once again, you guys are totally in sync as far as your thoughts on this one. So that means Heath Ledger will be moving on as well. I guess I would probably... I would have been torn on this one. I don't know which way I would have gone, but I'm thinking I would have leaned towards Heath Ledger too, just for being so out of the box and something that wasn't expected. I don't think anybody, when they heard that Heath Ledger was going to be playing the Joker, thought that that was a wise choice by anybody. But he definitely showed they were wrong and definitely poured his heart and soul into that character. So got to let him move on. And that means we're going to go into the tournament proper now. Now, we did seed these things, so there are going to be some 1 seeds against 8 seeds, et cetera, et cetera. So some of them may seem like more of a close contest, and some of them may seem like obvious choices. So we'll see how that goes, and we won't have to spend too much time if it's obvious. But starting on the left side of the bracket, which just happens to be more of the heroes, I guess, as it turned out, we're going to go with our number 1 seed against our number 8 seed. Number 1 seed on that side of the bracket, maybe because of the number of times he's had to play them, maybe just recency bias because we just saw a movie with him, but the number 1 seed is Wolverine, as played by Hugh Jackman, and he is going up against the number 8 seed, which is J. Jonah Jameson, as played by J.K. Simmons. Dan, why don't you start this one? What's your thoughts as far as how these characters match up?
Oh man, it's tough because like they are doing 2 very different things. Obviously, like I couldn't. And what's weird there was like I can't imagine anyone else playing these roles. I think they have nailed it so strongly that I can't imagine anyone else being Wolverine. I can't imagine anyone else being J. Jonah Jameson, J.K. Simmons. Just his comedic timing, his personality. It's some of the best moments of the Spider-Man franchise are him. Even in Spider-Man 3, like he still has some great moments. The timing is just phenomenal. But there's a reason Hugh Jackman's the number 1 seed, and even I think without Logan, still looking at what he was able to embody with that character. Even when the movies around him are awful, like with Wolverine Origins, that guy is putting in a great performance. You even see it with the dedication to his like how he became superhuman physique wise, and looking him at X-Men in 2000 to compare to now, it's like insane what he has been able to do. But he's a Broadway level actor that took this role of this dude with claws in his hands seriously, and it's worked. So for me, he goes on. He's who I'm voting for.
So 1 vote for Hugh Jackman. Amanda, agree that Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is just 1 notch better than J. Jonah Jameson as played by J.K. Simmons, or what do you think?
Yeah, just a notch better. Like Dan said, there's nobody else to play each of these roles. They fit so perfectly, and there's no way that you could see anybody else playing them. Their look, their attitude, everything that they bring to the table for each one of these performances is spot on. But I think the longevity and the legacy is much bigger for Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Matt? Dissenting opinion, or we are 1?
Oh no, we're 1 on this one. But I like, if this is the easiest, most decided with the 1 and the 8, then I have no idea what you're gonna throw at me. Like, because honestly, I was more worried about who was gonna play J. Jonah Jameson in the Amazing Spider-Man line than I was about Spider-Man or Aunt May or any other picks. Like, because J.K. Simmons is just, he's got it. Yep. He has done it, and like. Fingers crossed, like, hey, make it do it again, but he didn't. So we'll see what he does as Commissioner Gordon, but for now, like, he's got that.
So your vote is?
My vote is Wolverine, Hugh Jackman.
All right, so Wolverine moves on, as the 1 seed should, into the very next round. I do agree with you guys. I don't think there's anyone else that could play those two without us immediately comparing them to these guys, obviously. But I think just Wolverine, as far as an entire body of work and what he's been able to do from the beginning to the end with that character, is on another level. And like we said, he's number 1 seed for a reason. All right, that means the matchup right below them would find us the 5 seed and the 4 seed. The 4 seed being who we just talked about in one of our playing games, Patrick Stewart's Professor X, and he'll be going against the 5 seed, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. So Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool versus Patrick Stewart Professor X. Amanda, how do you even start this one? I know you weren't as big on it as everybody else on Deadpool, so does that make it an easy vote for Professor X, or what do you think?
Not necessarily, because I mean, there's no denying that Ryan Reynolds was made to play Deadpool, just as Patrick Stewart was seemingly made to play Professor X. Kind of a hard choice, but I think it comes back to, again, like a legacy that we've got already here. Do I think that that's the case with Deadpool? Not sure, but we've already got this long-lasting history with Patrick Stewart as Professor X. Even now that we have a new version of him, there's still this sentimentality to hold on to Patrick Stewart as Professor X. So I'm going to say Professor X.
All right, one vote for Patrick Stewart. Matt, where do you sit on this one? You like Deadpool. You obviously said some nice things about Patrick Stewart in the playing game, so how do you break this one down?
See, this is a good one. This is a good one. Like, because that Deadpool movie, Ryan Reynolds embodied that character perfectly. Like, as a person who really appreciates being true to the source material, because why are you going to make a different version of a thing if you're not going to follow the thing? Like, his performance as Deadpool in the Deadpool movie, like, just hits everything that I would want from that character. But that Wolverine origin movies, though, guys, he was that guy. Oh, he was still that guy. Like, it was the same actor, same character. Like, it was no good. It was no good. And so I'm giving it to Patrick Stewart. I'm going to say Wolverine Origins is why.
All right.
Like, I mean, Patrick Stewart's amazing, but I think more Ryan Reynolds lost this than Patrick Stewart won it.
Dan, agree or disagree?
It's tough. Yeah, I mean, Wolverine Origins isn't great for him. But to be fair, he wasn't the Deadpool in the end. He was only the person in the beginning, which I think was the Deadpool that I know for the most part, not necessarily. But I think he was limited by what it was, a god-awful script and just a bad movie in general. So, yeah, I just like to pretend that movie never happened. So if we could do that, that would be great. Don't forget that Patrick Stewart was also in that, and though it was only like a crazy cameo, was probably one of the worst moments of his career when it comes to the X-Men franchise. Well, then X-Men 3 came along, so never mind. I'm actually going to go... I'll switch things up here a little bit. I'm actually going to go with Ryan Reynolds, and I didn't expect that going in, but the reason being is that I think the X-Men franchise or an X-Men film, I think, could work without Patrick Stewart being there. Like X-Men 2, for example, like he's out of commission for a great period of that movie. But Deadpool's not working if Ryan Reynolds doesn't work. If he can't make that character work, Deadpool's not becoming who he is. If that doesn't happen, we don't get Logan. So, like, the responsibility of him as an actor in that movie is grand, and he nailed it. And by sheer force of will made that happen. And not even just in that movie, but even that's like leaked footage that went viral. His being able to really nail that role in a couple-minute clip made that movie created, and like he you gotta give him credit for that. And I think he, it was maybe the role he was born to play. It fits his sense of humor, fits his way of speaking, his way of acting. So I'm gonna go with Ryan Reynolds in this. It hurts me to do so, but I think he has a little bit of an edge.
Pretty strong arguments there by Dan, bringing up a couple different things. Number one, the Deadpool movie can't work without him, obviously, and number two, the marketing aspects of what Ryan Reynolds was able to do as Deadpool leading up to that film. Enough to persuade either of you two to switch your vote to Ryan Reynolds, or are you guys sticking with Patrick Stewart?
I'll switch to Ryan Reynolds. I think he made a good argument that, his movie doesn't work without him. Yeah, he's the main character, but who else would we be able to get to nail that character as well as we did and make this now a franchise? Whereas, look, we got another Professor X, and the shit's still going on. So
interesting. So a flip-flop on Miss HardCandiMandi over to the Ryan Reynolds side, which means now Ryan Reynolds is up 2-1 over Patrick Stewart. Which means I actually have to...
Can I flip-flop back myself? Is that possible?
What's your thought process on that, Dan?
I'm just curious. I just want to know the rules.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. There are no rules. Wow. Matt, what are you thinking about all this?
I'm thinking that, like, Dane Cook could do, like, I mean, I get that he's a little too old, but, like, we have another person that's been out there that I mean, even looks like Ryan Reynolds and could do that role just as well. And so
Dane Cook is not about to get a six-pack. No way.
Well, okay, so what? Like, but he could do the talking part, and he could do the look part. And so I feel like there's another, Deadpool could get his McAvoy.
Nah, dude, I've never looked at Dane Cook and been like, that dude could beat somebody's ass. But Deadpool.
You look at Ryan Reynolds and think that?
Yeah, dude is jacked. I'm pretty sure he could, like, whoop anybody.
All right.
Maybe not Hugh Jackman.
Well, that's what it's coming down to. Who do I want to see Hugh Jackman have to go against? Deadpool or Professor X? Man, I don't know about this one. I was all set to vote for Patrick Stewart as well, but I'm questioning it myself based on some of the arguments.
Matt does actually bring a good point. Like, I actually could kind of see Dane Cook doing that role. Maybe he wouldn't be like the physical presence. I don't know.
He'd have to have a stunt double, but he'd be all right. Man.
But yeah, I mean, Ryan Reynolds was just like a dude in a sitcom for a while too, until like he took some Pilates classes and stuff like that. So maybe.
I was actually tempted to say the other guy from Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, but I didn't.
Nathan Fillion? No.
Man, I don't know. How do you vote against Patrick Stewart? This one's tough for me. We got 2 votes for Ryan Reynolds with Amanda and Dan. Matt, I don't know if you've convinced me yet to vote for Patrick Stewart. I think that's where my gut sits, though. I like Dan's argument, though. I'm going to go with Ryan Reynolds on this one. I'll go with Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. I think it did work. I think there could be a James McAvoy out there to do that. There could be that version that could take over Deadpool, but I got to give it to Ryan Reynolds just becoming that character and the success he had in marketing it and just following through with that made it work, regardless of the whole Wolverine thing. So I guess I'll vote for Ryan Reynolds as well. So that means he will move on. All right. That means we are going to go to the other end of this bracket here, the Heroes bracket. Let's go down to the number 3 seed and the number 6 seed. The number 3 seed we'll see was our play-in matchup between our Batman, so that's going to be where Michael Keaton's Batman falls in at the 3 seed. And it only makes sense to have Batman versus Superman. So let's go with Christopher Reeve as Superman against Michael Keaton as Batman. 2 old school Batman and Superman guys. Amanda, let you start this one. What do you think?
Shit.
You always are about Batman versus Superman. Here you go.
Hey now, this is hard though. Fuck. I think that just based on, the time period that I was watching these movies for the first time and the age that I was in, definitely drawn to Batman more than Superman. Although, as I got older and watched, more of the Superman movies, I was able to appreciate them. But my heart falls in the 90s, no matter what. So I'm going to go with Michael Keaton Batman.
See, I guess my point on this one might be, if you're thinking about those characters specifically, there was a play-in matchup with Batman, which means that there's other actors who have played Batman that we also would consider or highly consider as, great performances. Do you put any of the other Supermans up there? There isn't a playing game for Superman. It was just Christopher Reeve because he seems to embody that character. Nobody's putting or talking about the other guys that have played Superman as being great. Maybe one of you guys feels that one of the other ones should have been involved. But so I don't know if that tilts things towards Christopher Reeve a little bit more since there's not as much competition. But Matt, maybe you have different feelings about Superman. So what do you think about this one?
Well, I think I would have much rather seen these two fight than Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck. But that's not Affleck's fault. He did a great job. So here's the thing. If you're like, hey, what's your favorite Batman movie? What's your favorite Superman movie? These guys aren't the stars. These aren't the two the movies that I would go to. But I would always want more Adam West Batman, but I think the Richard Donner Superman movies, those are Superman. Like, I think I gotta give it to Superman on this one, just because he is that character, like, for all of those movies.
This might be the one matchup that represents your criteria the most, because I think if you're deciding which one more embodies the character, I think Matt makes a valid argument that seems to be Christopher Reeve as Superman. But Dan, Michael Keaton's clearly the better actor, right?
I don't know. Clearly, Christopher Reeve, I think, had his moments. I don't know. If I would say better, he probably is a better actor. Did he give better performances? I don't know, because one thing you got to consider with Christopher Reeve too is how well he was able to play both the role of Superman and Clark Kent, and how you were able to actually somewhat by the fact that people won't recognize the fact that Superman and Clark Kent are the same person just without glasses. Just the physical way he was able to make Clark into this very like bumbling type of character, and he sold that well, and he made Superman a character that's so difficult to play. So many people have tried and failed into someone who was charismatic, empathetic, and had an element of charisma as well. So to me, this is kind of an easy one. I like Keaton, but there's maybe some debate of who could be the best Batman, like we went over. There's no debate of who the best Superman movie Superman is. Ralph was basically doing an impersonation of Christopher Reeve. So this is a slam dunk for me, Christopher Reeve all the way.
All right, so that's a vote for Christopher Reeve. Amanda was a vote for Michael Keaton. Matt, you were for Christopher Reeve too as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that means if I vote Christopher Reeve, he moves on. If I vote for Keaton, we got ourselves a tie. But I think I got to go back to what I was saying in my initial thoughts, that there's been more people that I can picture as Batman. I cannot picture anybody else as Superman, and the ones that have tried so far to me have utterly flopped as far as trying to play that character. So I'm going to make it a vote for Christopher Reeve then, and pass Superman on to the next round. That means we only have one more matchup on this side of the bracket, our 2 seed and our 7 seed. 2 seed being none other than one of Amanda's favorite actors, Mr. RDJ as Iron Man. And the 7 seed, it only makes sense. They just gave it to us last year. We got to do Iron Man versus Captain America. So Captain America, as played by Chris Evans. So we got Captain America versus Iron Man. Matt, I'll let you go first on this one.
Oh, jeez. Like, these guys are great. Like, they're great. Robert Downey Jr. is one of the best actors out there today. Like, maybe not best of all time, but like, if he's in a movie now, I want to see it. Like, he's got more drawing power than just about anyone else in Hollywood for me personally. Like, I love his Iron Man. And what's great is that, like, the fact that that on some level he's lived the Iron Man life in real life, like, it really helps somehow. Like, it's like, yeah, he knows what it's like, and he method acted this one before he got the role. And so, he's so good. But, like, Chris Evans in that first one, playing just the head and then playing the whole body. He's so good. Like, these guys are great, and either one of these guys deserves to be number 1. But if I gotta choose one of them, I think I'm going with Iron Man on this one.
And this one was an intriguing matchup for me because I know we have 2 people that are very strong in each camp, I think, because Amanda loves RDJ as Iron Man, and I believe, Dan, your feelings are just as strong for Captain America. I know that's considering the movies. I don't know how it breaks down when you're considering these 2 characters. So where do you lie as far as Robert Downey Jr. versus Chris Evans?
This is probably the hardest one we've done so far for me. It's really going back and forth because, Chris Evans he gets that role of Captain America, and it's similar to Christopher Reeve and Superman. That's a hard character to play. Tony Stark, Iron Man's flashy, he's comedic, he is a lot, it's easier to make that character fun and entertaining, where Steve Rogers can be kind of boring and bland, but it's the way he kind of is able to make you really empathize with him as a person. Like he is just a stand-up guy first and foremost, and he doesn't ever, he was able to really make that character work, and he gets the nuances of Captain America and Steve Rogers. That thinking of back to Civil War in that moment when he does that, I can do this all day, and like that in so many ways gets to the heart of that character. But honestly, I think I might have to go to Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. I talked about with Ryan Reynolds and the responsibility he had. You think about it, Robert Downey Jr. basically put the Marvel Universe on his back, and he made it work. Like, he was a big reason why Iron Man was the success that it was. It was breaking out, coming back to the world party for him, because he was, in the doldrums of Hollywood for a while, and he just burst onto the scene, and like, I kind of knew him before that, but I didn't know much about him, but he made me want to see Iron Man. He made me want to see the Avengers. He was the money for this franchise. He put him in. He was like, he made Iron Man into an A-list character by sheer force of will. And without him, we may not get the Avengers. Without his success, we may not even get Chris Evans as Captain America. Is that an unfair thing to say? But it might be. But I don't think it also shows just how important that performance was. And even though he is funny and he has all the crazy lines, there are moments where you do see a more tragic character as well. So it pains me to say it, but I think I'm going to go with Robert Downey Jr.
Amanda, what do you think? I'm surprised Dan going with Iron Man. Are you going to surprise me and go with Captain America?
Hell no. I'm going to go with RDJ all the way. I do think Chris Evans is a great Captain America, definitely for all the points that Dan brought up. I think that he is, Chris Evans is a great actor in many of his roles, really, and I respect him, but RDJ is definitely just has my heart. I think he's got like one of my most favorite quotes ever, and he's actually in a courtroom talking about his addiction, and he said that it's like I have the gun in my mouth, but I like the taste of the metal. Like, I think he puts himself completely into what he's doing, and I think it definitely shows in Iron Man. He's definitely embodied that and given it this dynamicism that just it's got so much charisma that we can't help but love him.
Yeah, I think also what Dan kind of brought up is I think there was definitely a bigger hill to climb for RDJ to pull off Iron Man than there was for Steve Rogers, only because, like he was saying, how many people knew who Iron Man was if you weren't like really into comic books? I had heard of him, but I had no clue anything about him when that movie was first being talked about and rumored and kind of discussed, and I was like, well, I'm not really that interested. I don't even think I saw it in theater. But then, when you do finally see it, it's what launched Marvel, and it's what made it. And, the ball was already rolling by the time Chris Evans comes along. But that's not to take away what Chris Evans did with that character. It's like Dan said, it's not necessarily the most flashy of characters, and he's totally embodied that character. We've gotten that a lot. We've got a lot of characters so far that you can't picture too many other people playing, and I think Chris Evans fits into that with Captain America, but I will vote in the end for Robert Downey Jr. just because I like what he's done to carry kind of Marvel in those early stages. So Iron Man, moving on into the next round. Let's flip to the other side of the bracket. We're talking good a lot. Let's break it up a little bit and talk some evil, or at least some villainry. Let's go to the number one seed on the villain side, one that we've already talked about, which was the playing game between the two Jokers. So we have Heath Ledger's Joker in the 1 seed, and if he beat Jack Nicholson's Joker, I would think this would be an easy choice for some of us, but the number 8 seed on that side is Danny DeVito's Penguin. So can he take down the other Joker and the other Penguin? Amanda, what do you think? Is it Heath Ledger moving on easily past Danny DeVito, or what do you think?
Oh, dude, I love Danny DeVito as the Penguin. He's disgusting and despicable, and I think he looks perfect for the role. I think it is, a very, I kind of want to say outlandish role. Like, he's definitely not human looking, and he is a very big character, even though he's a short motherfucker. And I think that he is one of my all-time favorite Batman characters, and that's definitely a hard choice pitting him up against the best freaking Joker that I've seen in film. So, man, hard. You know what? I'm gonna stick up for all the little people in the world, and I'm gonna say Danny DeVito. As
going for the upset, the 8 seed over the 1 seed. Matt, what do you think? Danny DeVito's Penguin, Heath Ledger's Joker.
Well, I believe if anyone can remember all the way back when we did our what was it, like top 10 or top 20 favorite comic book characters in movies, I chose Burgess Merriweather as my Penguin. And not to be this Batman 66 like apologist or enthusiast or whatever. I like how he portrayed the character. I mean, again, these guys both are doing different takes from the comic books than what I would like, right? Like I like this Danny DeVito has some of the cool and calculating, but wasn't he mostly made by people around him in that movie? It's been a while since I've seen it.
It was not, like, I think it was more so they thought so, but he really had this secret plan using penguins with rocket launchers all along.
I need to see, was it Batman Returns again? Like, that movie sounds amazing.
It really is.
Like, I don't like the disgusting character. I don't so much like the anarchist evil. I don't know. I mean, like a different take on anarchist, like a dark, gritty anarchist.
He's got black shit coming out of his mouth. He's like ripping heads off fish and stuff.
Yeah,
but his like
disgusting.
body is morphed. Like it makes it crazy and awesome.
So much love for the Penguin.
You know what? I'm gonna vote Penguin.
Yes.
Like. I'm not casting my tiebreaker on this one if it goes the other way, not at all. But like, I think I'm just gonna do that and not feel bad.
Dan?
Well, I'm gonna go Heath Ledger. I like Danny DeVito, and I think his performance is somewhat underrated. It kind of gets lost, and maybe because the movie isn't as well regarded as some of the other comic book films, especially Batman movies. But Heath Ledger. There's so much, I don't know what more to say about it that hasn't been said, but I like Danny DeVito's character. He's kind of like smarmy, disgusting, like Amanda mentioned, but Heath Ledger is disgusting in a lot of ways too, and just so like Dark Knight doesn't go back to the like what won't work if they're not there. I don't think Dark Knight is the movie it is without him and what he did for that role. So
I mean, he did kill a guy with a pencil. So
he did. That was an amazing magic trick. So I mean, I never saw the Joker as an intimidating character in anything I read or watched, but he made it into that just because there was something like unpredictable about him. So I'm going with Ledger.
Look what that role does to people. Like, it consumes people. It's such like a dark role that people just they literally go fucking stupid nuts. Like, it's crazy. Look how it changed Jared Leto too. But look at Penguin. He's a fun, skeezy little character.
Is this an argument for him?
And it's somebody that you can have fun with, believe
Nobody's
his
having
character.
fun with this guy.
Shut up. Believe his character, and he's not gonna ruin anybody's life by playing him.
I think the kind of the legend behind like Ledger losing his life because of the role is maybe played out a little bit more than it should, because if you ever look at some of the backstage behind the scenes photos and videos, he is kind of just living life like a normal dude. He's happy and go lucky, and I don't know. I think that's more of like the legend that's been built. I don't know if that's really the reason behind it. Jared Leto is just a weird dude, so can't really say much about that. But I mean, I don't think like. And Mark Hamill seems to be doing okay, and he's been Joker for like 30 years now.
He's just the voice, though.
Don't ever say just the voice when you're talking about Mark Hamill and the Joker. You will have mobs of angry people.
Has he ever showed up looking like the Joker somewhere?
He doesn't need to.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
I was gonna say, have you ever seen him do the voice? He kind of looks like him.
Have you ever seen him in real life? He's not a good-looking dude. He really kind of looks like the.
Why don't you calm your shit and cast your voice? Your voice. Cast your voice.
I will cast my voice because this is ridiculous. I think Danny DeVito's put up more of a fight than most people would give him credit for, but this has to go to Heath Ledger. That's one of the greatest performances in a comic book movie, period. So I don't see him going out this early in this tournament. I have to vote for Heath Ledger to pass Danny DeVito, regardless of how skeezy and slimebally Danny DeVito was able to do with Penguin. I can't do it. So I vote for Heath Ledger too, which means we have our first tie 2-2.
I'll use my tiebreaker, and he has to go on. We cannot the message legitimately once we post it, the message boards would disintegrate if we didn't let each other go on.
The end of the Geekcast Radio Network.
I will take on the internet.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
I am not scared.
All right, so Joker moving on, thanks to Dan's tiebreaker vote. Let's go to the 5 and 4 seed on that side of the bracket, and let's get a little some female action involved here. So let's go to 2 female quote-unquote villains, and let's go with our number 4 seed, Catwoman, as played by Michelle Pfeiffer, against the number 5 seed, more recently, Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie. Amanda? Ladies first on this one, since it's 2 ladies going against each other. What do you think? Catwoman or Harley Quinn?
Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman. Boom. I think she does a really...
You have 7 Harley Quinn Funkos over on the shelf.
Which is telling you something. I really, really like Harley Quinn as a character. But I also think that people blew up Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Fucking stupid style. And I can't always get behind it. Alright? I think she did a great job. I think that her character was kind of underused in Suicide Squad. The scenes that they deleted out definitely added something. They should have left them in there. But maybe she needs her own standalone film to really solidify that role for me. Maybe. But I think that Michelle Pfeiffer was an amazing Catwoman. I love the buildup of her story. I loved her transformation. I loved her interactions with freaking Christopher Walken as her boss. I loved her interactions with Batman. I love the scene where she's making her freaking costume. I think that it was a fun ride and a fun transformation, and I liked who she became.
So Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes.
All right. I will say most people did obviously point to Margot Robbie and Will Smith as the best 2 parts of the Suicide Squad. Dan, what do you think here? Harley Quinn or Catwoman?
I want to think less about Suicide Squad than I need to. So I'm going to go with Michelle Pfeiffer. Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie was fine. I don't necessarily know if it was more of just the fact that she looked a lot like Harley Quinn. I don't know if the performance was anything all that spectacular. Michelle Pfeiffer is just talk about crazy that. Her performance is just it's weird, and it's just such a random combination of acting choices. But I don't know, but she's a lot of fun in that role. She's very much exactly what I would expect for a Tim Burton version of. So I want to go with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Matt, agree or a dissenting opinion here with Harley Quinn and Catwoman?
Well, I've already said once this record that I don't remember Batman Returns that much. I remember one bit at the beginning where Batman misses a dude with a grappling hook and then pulls the wall out from behind him. And I remember one bit at the end where Catwoman gets shot a dozen times. It's a guy's that's 1 life, that's 2 lives. I remember that, and then I remember the Penguin rockets, and that's all I got of that movie. But she's more Catwoman than Halle Berry will ever be. Say that much. Honestly, I think you hit on the head when you said Will Smith and Margot Robbie were the 2 best things about the Suicide Squad movie. The Suicide Squad movie's problems were script related to me. I think most of the actors did a good job with what they had and what they were offered. I think a lot of the character choices were terrible, but not the actors' choices, the direction choices. I think the script was one of the worst scripts in a superhero movie history. But I think Margot Robbie is exactly what I want from an on-screen Harley Quinn, which is especially weird considering Jared Leto was terrible as the Joker. So I'm going to go with Margot Robbie.
All right, so one vote over to Harley Quinn's side. This could be completely recency bias or something like that, but I have not. I'm like Matt. I haven't seen Batman Returns in a long time. I do remember Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, but I wouldn't be able to like break down her performances and kind of go into ins and outs. I do remember thinking it was absolutely crazy at the time, but I don't know. I'm thinking I'm siding with Matt on this one just because, as bad as that movie was, I thought Harley Quinn was one of the bright spots in there.
Which one of the 6 times of them just panning up to her butt caused you to cast this vote?
None of them. But I'm going to vote. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm going to vote for Harley Quinn on this one, which means we have another tie. 2 for Harley Quinn and 2 for Catwoman. Anybody feeling strong enough on this one to use a tiebreaker? Amanda, you were pretty adamant right at the beginning.
How many of these tiebreaker things were
got 2 and
yeah, I'm gonna use mine here. I'm gonna say tiebreaker. It's got to be Catwoman, and I think that her performance and her arc was way better than what we saw from Harley Quinn. And I don't even know if we're gonna get any more Harley Quinn, and to even help her case as Harley Quinn. But I know for a fact that Michelle Pfeiffer's performance was tops as Catwoman.
All right. So Catwoman moving on emphatically by Amanda and her use of the tiebreaker. That means we only have 2 more matchups on that side to go. Let's go down to the number 2 and the number 7 seed on that side. Number 2 seed has already been talked about. It was the play-in matchup for Magneto. So we have Michael Fassbender's Magneto now in the number 2 seed slot, going up against Alfred Molina's Doc Ock in the 7 seed. Dan recently brought this up on a previous record on kind of that being an underrated performance, so we'll let you start with this one, Dan. Michael Fassbender as Magneto or Alfred Molina as Doc Ock?
I'm going to go with Fassbender, but I do want to kind of throw some praise to Molina's performance in this. And I love Spider-Man 2 for a lot of reasons, but to me, I think what's great about what they do with Doc Ock is how it plays against that of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, where that is a character that is about what happens when a person takes up the responsibility that they're given based upon the power that's bestowed upon them, where you see Doc Ock is the opposite of that, where a great power is provided, but the responsibility isn't there, where decisions are made that are to the benefit of the individual, even though that there is a risk to others, and that kind of how that kind of grows as it moves on. Like, what's great about, I think, his performance is how he just starts as a normal guy. There's an element of tragedy to what he becomes, and I think his arc is rather strong in that film. But I think too is just he's got some really great lines. I love his interaction with Aunt May. He like how he transforms himself, and it's not necessarily a drastic change. It's not like he becomes this maniacal, cackling type of character, but you certainly see that, like, that drive that he that consumes him, and he gets obsessed, and to the point where, like, he's doing what he's doing. But like I said, Fassbender is just at another level, and there's specific moments that within the X-Men franchise that I won't get to that, to me, are just some of the best of any comic book movie in history, and I think legitimately Oscar-worthy, and if it wasn't a comic book film, maybe even considered because of that. So Molina's great. I like him a lot, but I'm going to go Fassbender.
Matt, agree or disagree with Dan's take?
I think, like, he was the one the most in Doc Ock's court, and if he's not even voting Doc Ock, how could any of us? Like, Fassbender is just one of the best. So I'm going to have to go with him.
Amanda?
Yeah, I mean, do we need to see or say anything more about Michael Fassbender as Magneto? I mean, I think we said it all earlier. There's so many different facets of his character that we see, so many emotions that we see played out, and it's stellar. There's no contest.
I do agree with Dan that Doc Ock was well done, and Alfred Molina did a good job on that one. Especially in the world of superhero villains, which oftentimes are the worst part of the movies that they're in. But I can't vote against Michael Fassbender, so it's going to be unanimous for Magneto moving on as the number 2 seed probably is expected to do. And he'll face the winner of the 3 and 7 matchup. At the 3 seed, we have Tom Hiddleston as Loki. And at the 6 seed, facing off against him is Terrence Stamp, Zod. So, Dan, how does this one work? A lot of times I know people have looked at Loki as probably one of the best of the villains we've gotten as far as the MCU goes. And then obviously Terrence Stamp is old school, so where do you feel like this one boils down to?
It's tough because Terrence Stamp is doing a very particular thing that works really well for Superman 2. He's just like this, he's hamming it up in the best ways possible. Neil before Zod, he's really kind of taking the idea of a supervillain and, you know, playing it with a capital S and the capital V, where Tom Hiddleston is doing that in a lot of moments, you know, like, especially in the Avengers, he's really kind of, I think, Whedon's really making him into that classic type of villain, but there are some moments, especially within the Thor films, where you get a little more depth to his character, especially with Thor: The Dark World. The moments that come to my mind are the ones where he's dealing with what happens to his mother and the relationship and the conflict with him and his brother. So it's a little unfair because, you know, they're both playing villains, but I think Loki, based on the fact that he's, you know, has more films and more time, Tom Hiddleston was able to do a little bit more, and also is more of a modernization of what happened with the superhero film in general. You know, Terrence Stamp is great. He's fun. But I think Hiddleston is probably maybe one of the best villains that Marvel has had. So because of that, I'm going to go with him here.
I think that's the same logic for me. I think, you know, being the go-to villain as far as all the Marvel films, as far as he set the bar is what it seemed like. And I don't know if it's just because he was chosen as the villain in Avengers, but I think it would be regardless of that, just based on the Thor films, that he kind of set the bar as this is what a villain can be, and everybody else was comparing all the villains in the future Marvel films to him. And I don't think any of them quite really have lived, well, I don't know if that's maybe too strong of a word, but in a lot of people's minds, nobody has quite hit that same bar yet. So I agree. I think this one would be a vote for Tom Hiddleston as Loki too. It's also, I like Tom Hiddleston, but I still think this is maybe one of his best performances as Loki. A lot of his other movies have kind of been a little middle of the road type films, and some of them have been kind of doozies. So I'm going with Tom Hiddleston as Loki against General Zod. Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I don't even remember this General Zod. Is he the one that gets trapped in that, like, mirror thing with them?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really all I remember about that. I think that Loki, like Kevin said, definitely sets the bar for villainry here. I think he's the right amount of humorous, the right amount of an egomaniac to where...
But he was also able to kind of play that line of almost tricking you. Like, you didn't know what his true intentions were. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't know what his motivations or you know, how bad is he or is he capable of turning and that type of stuff. I thought he did a good job kind of balancing that act. Didn't mean to cut you off. No other thoughts?
No.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, Matt, what do you think about this one?
Whew. Well, I mean, it's the vote. The die is cast, right?
It is.
But I do think that Terrence Stamp doesn't have the presence that Michael Shannon had as Zod. But again, he's the more iconic version of the character. He brought something to that character that made that movie more enjoyable than Man of Steel easily. But, I mean, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, I mean, he's just one of the best villains we've gotten in a movie, like, superhero or not. Like, just, like, that moment in Avengers where, like, they're all, like, fighting and he's just sitting there. Like, I don't know, like, I love his performance. And I think, you know, it's loud and stuff, but I think sometimes it gets overrated. I mean, I personally overlook it sometimes, and then anytime I just go back to it, I was like, oh, man, that is so good.
All right, so that means Loki is moving on, and that means we only have 8 competitors left. Let's get right back into it, though, flipping back over to the hero side. Our first matchup in the next round would see Wolverine facing off against Deadpool. I mean, how fitting is that? I couldn't have wrote that up any better. I was thinking it was going to be Wolverine versus Professor X, but either way, we get a good matchup here. Wolverine versus Deadpool. Matt, I know you just kind of finished us up here, but the die had already been cast in that Loki matchup, so let's give you a little bit more weight here. What do you think? We've already kind of weighed out some of the good and bad about these characters, but what would tip the scale one way or the other for you when it comes to Wolverine or Deadpool?
Oh, man. Like, so these guys, they're both great. They both do the job exactly as you want. Like, as much as I gave Ryan Reynolds crap for X-Men Origins, I mean, they're both in it, right? But, like, they both are, as we've said a bunch, and forgive me if it gets tiring, they both embody the characters on the screen. They are exactly who I would pick if I, hey, infinite budget, cast who you want, these are the two I'm getting for that movie, for their various respective movies. I love them both. I think they're great, but here's the thing. Ryan Reynolds has done it for 1.5 movies. He's embodied Wade Wilson. This guy's been Wolverine. Nearly 2 decades, he is Wolverine. And he gets him all the way from, the scrappy little guy all the way to the end where, it just hurts to live. And he gets that. He's a powerhouse actor. He's an amazing performer. I gotta give it to Hugh Jackman on this one.
Amanda?
So everything like Matt said, I'm going to go with that.
She says exactly in agreement everything that Matt said. So that means there's 2 votes for Wolverine. Dan, would you like to decide this one, or would you like to keep it up for grabs?
Well, my thought process is I'm pretty sure Deadpool and the Deadpool movie would vote for Wolverine would break the fourth wall and vote for Hugh Jackman and Logan and Wolverine. So I'll agree with Deadpool and vote for Wolverine.
All right, that means Wolverine is moving on. I would vote for him too if it mattered. But so that's a clean sweep. Wolverine moving past Deadpool, the number 1 seed beats the number 5 seed. The other matchup on that side of the bracket sees our number 2 seed against our number 6 seed. We did have an upset. I didn't realize that, but Superman beating Batman was actually technically, I guess, an upset when it came to the seeding. So now we have Iron Man versus Superman. Amanda, your boy, RDJ, going against the Man of Steel.
I mean, looking at both of their legacies, it's crazy because everybody sees Christopher Reeve as Superman, but everybody also sees RDJ as Iron Man, but there's been no other Iron Man. It's just Iron Man. Whereas Superman, even all the other renditions that we've had, all the other actors that we've had as Superman, Christopher Reeve is Superman. So as much as I love RDJ, I think I'm going to give this one to Christopher Reeve as Superman.
Interesting. You're a faithful to RDJ. That surprises me. Dan, is it steel or iron we're going with in this one?
Well, part of thinking the performance is we're talking about longevity. Well, 4 movies in, and Christopher Reeve was giving us Superman 4, which was him fighting a Superman clone with Gene Hackman's voice on the moon and throwing nukes into the sun, and giving it was a pretty he reined in performance. Robert Downey Jr. is in his 19th time still playing this character, and he's still nailing it out of the park. I think even with Civil War, we got a little bit, he brought even new elements to the character somehow with the relationship with his parents, and especially near the ending and the way that works out. So because Robert Downey Jr. stayed more consistent throughout a longer period of time, I'll go Robert Downey Jr.
All right, 1 vote each. Matt, we got an interesting matchup boiling down here for this last side on the hero side. So, Iron Man or Superman?
Oh, man, this is not what I expected when you were going to come to me on this one. I don't want to blame Christopher Reeve for the Superman 4, that he didn't write that, right? And also,
he did help write it. He actually did help write it.
Oh no!
That's why it had the subplot of him throwing nukes into the sun, because he would only do the movie if they brought that into the film.
Oh, he's a super hardcore liberal disarmament guy, huh?
He was in the 80s, yeah.
I can believe that. I'm gonna just assume that that's true. I
heard it someplace. Some people on the internet were talking about it, so I've heard things.
Dan has never lied to me. So.
I really like what Amanda said about how, I mean, there have been how many Supermans, but there's only one Superman. And, like those movies are iconic. I came back to them as an adult. I came to them as an adult. I don't know that I ever saw them as a child, but as an adult, they still, like, amazed and wowed me. I still love them. Like, they like, got the characterization of Superman perfectly. But then also earlier I said Robert Downey Jr. He's one of the best actors that Hollywood has in its staple right now. Like it's so this is maybe the hardest one, but I'm going to just tenuously give my vote to Robert Downey Jr. on this one. I could be swayed, but that's where I'm going right now.
See, I think even though we say that, when you think of Superman, you think of Christopher Reeve, even though multiple people have played, nobody has had the chance to play Iron Man, so let's do Christopher Reeve, we're going back to the 70s, so let's skip ahead 30 years into the future. Let's say we've had, one or two more people play Iron Man. I think the argument could be made that we're still going to say RDJ embodies Iron Man. I mean, we can't say for sure, but I don't know if it's fair to make that argument since there's been nobody else that's had a chance to play Iron Man either. I can't picture somebody doing it better than Robert Downey Jr., though. I could still see maybe somebody doing a Superman that I would pick above Christopher Reeve, maybe, eventually, if somebody actually wrote a good script and somebody directed a good movie. That could happen. I don't know.
It's not Christopher Reeve's fault he couldn't do a better Superman movie because he couldn't walk anymore.
I'm not saying that he didn't do a good Superman. I'm saying that there's a potential that somebody else could, if there was a good movie out there and they found the right person, we might have someone that we could say, hey, that guy rivals Christopher Reeve. I don't know if I'm.
Why don't you stop going on mites and go with what we've got already?
Okay, then I'm gonna go with RDJ because I like every Iron Man movie better than every Superman movie.
Because you're.
Oh man.
I don't even know what to say anymore.
I do want to say that as much as Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man has permeated our culture, right? He's an icon to us at our age. Growing up, I heard my mom say things like, wear a helmet. I don't want you to end up like Superman. That is a literal thing my fucking mom said to me when I was like 12, which is great. Great, Mom. Good job. But I don't think I'm ever going to tell my kids, like, hey, you don't want to be a drunk like Iron Man. Just culturally, Christopher Reeve's Superman has definitely had a bigger impact, especially in my life, than Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man.
Are you switching your vote?
No, I'm not switching my vote.
Man, I can't believe this is the one that you're being one of the strongest reactions to being such a big RDJ fan.
I'm just trying to give the guy in a wheelchair a chance, okay?
Well, he has no chance because he's out of this tournament. Iron Man moves.
He's also in heaven now, okay? So, who's the real winner?
I respect your choice, Amanda.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for at least having my back on the Superman choice.
We're going to move on to the villainry as we get more villainous ourselves. Let's look at the number 1 seed facing off against the number 4 seed. Man, he's taken down Jack Nicholson's Joker. He's taken down Danny DeVito's Penguin, and now he's coming after Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. He's trying to single-handedly destroy 90s Batman movies. We got the Joker as played by Heath Ledger against Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. Anybody want to start this one off? Matt, what do you think?
Again, like I said earlier, I can't remember Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman all that much. I think this would be the one to cause internet. Is internet outrage going to happen if Heath Ledger just doesn't win this? Is there going to be one that he could go up against? Maybe Hugh Jackman. I don't know. I'm going to give this one to Heath Ledger because, it'd be silly otherwise. Did anyone in Batman Returns beat Heath Ledger's Joker performance? I say no. Except for maybe Penguin. I don't know. I'm gonna say Heath Ledger.
One vote for Heath Ledger. Amanda, you've been in the corner.
Stop talking. I'll go with Heath Ledger.
So, no more love for your 90s Batman?
How can you put anything up against Heath Ledger's Joker of any of these calibers? You know what I mean? Maybe Matt said, who's gonna go up against him? Wolverine? Wolverine go up against him?
We'll see. Looking into the future, so that's 2 votes for Joker. Dan, you gonna make it 3?
Yeah, Definitely.
All right, so 4 votes for Heath Ledger's Joker, taking out the trio of 90s Batman characters. That means we're going down to the other side of the bracket here with Magneto, the number 2 seed, going against Loki, the number 3 seed, in an interesting matchup. Michael Fassbender's Magneto, Tom Hiddleston's Loki. Amanda, let's start with you. I know you like both of these gents. What do you think?
Oh, man. Let's see. Jeez. Wait, Loki against who?
Michael Fassbender.
Okay.
Magneto.
My brain just totally stopped if you're talking about dudes.
You were just thinking about...
I'm going to go with Michael Fassbender. I think that his arc and, everything that he's put in his performance that we've said 8,000 times now, let's record, is going to top Tom Hiddleston as Loki. That's not to take away from, how awesome Tom Hiddleston did as Loki. But, yeah, I think that the performance had so much more to it with Fassbender.
So I can't make the same argument as far as that we made earlier, as far as there's been multiple Magnetos that we could put in this grouping. Ian McKellen did a fabulous job too, but there's been nobody else that's played Loki, so shouldn't that give...
Actually, did you see The Mask? Because Loki was the god of mischief that had possessed the mask. So technically there has been somebody else that played Loki. He was the Mask in The Mask.
Wow.
And The Mask is a comic book movie.
So, sir.
I've been schooled here. Dan, you had some arguments that you were saving for Magneto. Is now the time to bring them out, or do you think it's not necessary to go against Loki here? Do you think it's an easy win?
I'm gonna hold off. I don't think it's an easy win, but it's I'm gonna go with Fassbender over Hiddleston. It's tough because I love both of these guys, and they're both they're these characters and have a lot going for them. I think they've done a wonderful job in their roles. I think the reason I'm gonna go with Fassbender though is because I always felt the relationships within the X-Men films, there was just a certain depth to them that are not there quite yet in the Marvel movies. Loki's probably the closest there is with his relationship with Thor, but I always felt like the X-Men films and the Fassbender characters, Fassbender's performance and the Magneto character, they were just dealing with like more complex issues. X-Men by general, there is a sense of realism that you don't have in the Avengers film, which is fine. That's not necessarily what they're going for, but because of that, I think Fassbender is able to give a stronger performance, and he's dealing with a lot more emotionally wise, because you're tying a lot of what he's doing in with real life tragic events from things like the Holocaust, obviously, where his character originates from or is heavily influenced by. So because of that, I'm going to go Fassbender.
All right, Matt, what do you think? Another vote for Michael Fassbender, or are you going to cast one towards the Loki side?
Well, I think that this is these two guys have done an amazing job, and I would watch them be a villain in any movie. Like even different characters, I think they both would do an amazing job. I think they're great guys, and I love the movies that they're in. Like I love all of the movies that they're in. Thor 1 is kind of weak, but that's script. Loki's great in it, but I think just between Loki being the amazing villain of Avengers 2 and then being that like hurt man in Thor 2, Avengers 1, Thor 2, I think I'm gonna go Tom Hiddleston on this one. Like I think I like him a little bit better as Loki.
Interesting. So one vote over towards Loki. I am so tempted to join you, Matt, because I do think that I like so much of what we talked about before, how he's able to balance. You don't know whether you can believe him, what his motives are, what is in it. And Tom Hiddleston does a real great job of masking that and kind of hiding his intentions. And I do think he has some good moments, family wise, some depth to his character that we don't get a lot, like Dan was saying, in the MCU. But Michael Fassbender has all of that too, so it's almost. I mean, I could see these two almost in a final. It comes down to, I guess, a personal preference. I am going to vote for. I will vote for Loki too. And
can I say tiebreaker now then, or?
Ooh.
Or do I have to wait for you to offer it?
I don't know. I guess the rules weren't set for that. So if you're offering it,
I feel strongly enough about this one.
Okay.
It's not the Penguin.
So you want Loki to move on?
I do.
Woo! Upset for that round. Loki over Magneto. Dan, are you surprised by that?
A little bit, because I didn't expect that. I don't know.
I can see both of them. I can see the argument for both. I'm torn. I still don't even know if my vote was in the right direction.
It wasn't.
Oh well, since I wanted to reserve a few things, but I guess might as well throw it out there. Maybe people will change their mind. I don't know.
Go for it.
But I think they're just moments of acting that Fassbender is able to demonstrate within that franchise that I think are at just another level. Specifically looking at X-Men First Class, in which you have a really small moment where he is just trying to move this satellite with the help of Xavier, and it's like this small, like, kind of just bit. It's not necessarily, he's not changing the world here. He's just trying to learn how to control himself. But it's a one shot completely on his face, and within that you see a little bit of a kind of a mini flashback to when he was as a child. This euphoria he's able to demonstrate, and it's just like that right there is acting with a capital A. It's just him just being able to kind of demonstrate so much with so little, and in a touching way, and able to make Magneto and Eric Lencher, this guy that eventually basically becomes a terrorist, into just a really sympathetic character. Then when he's basically hunting down Nazis, and the anger that's there compared to what you see, that like just almost the childness of that was lost coming back. I don't see anything to that level with Tom Hiddleston in the Avengers films. Yeah, he's fun, and he has some moments that like a pain, especially dealing with like the what happens with his mom. But that dichotomy of that character isn't as, I think, drastic as Fassbender is able to demonstrate within that franchise, and within especially First Class. So I don't know if that changes anybody's mind, but I did want to throw it out there because I do feel like it's worth saying, I guess.
If you look at both characters, though, both of them were taken away from their real parents. And look what each of them did with that. One became a spoiled brat who decided to do some shit to go against the family who took him in. And the other sought revenge and annihilated those who came up against him, who were really villains, guys who did awful shit to a lot of people. So I just think that Magneto became a better villain for better reasons than Loki.
I think another thing maybe that I wasn't considering for Magneto might be the fact that we've seen him. He's not necessarily 100% villain at all times.
But is Loki?
Well, I guess you could make that argument for both of them. But you do get a lot of times where Magneto is kind of he's not just being evil for the sake of being evil, because there are a lot of times where he does help or does do positive things or make decisions that are in the best interest of people or
not
different
people, mutants,
etc. Sorry, Matt, are they swaying you at all?
I mean, Dan's not wrong. Like, Fassbender is an amazing performer. Like, if this is just which one of them gave a better performance, I mean, I might have to give it to Fassbender. But like, if we're talking character, I think I still like Hiddleston's Loki just a smidge more.
The other moment that I thought, Dan, you were going to go to, and I think you were kind of going to a couple different moments, but the moment where they show him in, what was it? Was that in Apocalypse at the beginning? That they show him with his family, where his wife and his daughter. That moment, whatever film that was in, but that moment was super powerful as well, and being able to just see like him trying to leave all of that behind and still kind of be drugged back into it, and the vengeance and everything else that came because of that. Oh, man, I can see the arguments on both sides, and I can see maybe there's Loki or Tom Hiddleston being that character more. I think I'm getting persuaded enough to switch my vote to Magneto, though, just because of the depths that Michael Fassbender was able to go in a couple of those instances, where Loki might still be able to do that if he's involved in a future film, but we haven't seen it maybe to that level yet. So I'll flip my vote to Magneto, and we'll switch that result, and we'll have Magneto move on with a vote of 3-1. So, in the most close contest we had yet, Magneto versus Loki. That means there's only 2 more contests to bring out our final 2. We got Wolverine versus Iron Man as the first one. Amanda, Wolverine or Iron Man?
Oh, shit. I think...
You voted against Iron Man last round. Now you're coming back around to RDJ?
I don't know, because Wolverine has been one of my favorite characters for so long. Like, when I was little, I didn't even know about Iron Man. Like, he wasn't a thing to me. But Wolverine was. I loved watching the 90s cartoon. And I was never really one to read comics, but all those 90s cartoons really solidified a lot of these comic book characters as, something that I was interested in. So when we did get this live action version of X-Men, I was super freaking stoked, and Hugh Jackman was everything that I wanted in Wolverine, and from the first movie, I loved him, loved his character. So as much as I love RDJ, as much as I think Iron Man is super freaking cool, in this matchup, I'm still going to have to go with Wolverine.
Dan, is this one a slam dunk, even though it's a 1 versus a 2, and it should be I guess it should be our closest matchup, but is it more of a slam dunk for Wolverine, or what do you think?
I wouldn't say slam dunk per se. It's tough. Because they are 2 very different characters, where Wolverine doesn't, he's not that. He's the muscle, not muscle, but, he brings the brutality where Tony Stark brings the entertainment. He doesn't really, he has humorous moments, but they're not necessarily jokey moments or meant to be jokes, like something like, so it's tough. And I'm obviously don't want to do the thing where I feel like I'm picking something because it's more fresh in my mind, but it's hard not to. And it's also, there's just that to Hugh Jackman's credit and to the credit of the films that have been made, he's been able to tell that story in complete. There's been some bad parts of it, no doubt, X-Men Origins and what have you, but like I said, even when the movies have been bad, he's been great, and he going back to even like the first X-Men film, and which had probably a Michael budget compared to what they are now. There's a lot of issues with that first X-Men film, but he's not one of them, and it's tough. They're both great, but I just think that Hugh Jackman, kind of going back similar to the argument that I was making with Fassbender, he's been able to deal with a little bit more seriousness, and then looking at just Logan, and that to me is maybe he's ending it at a high note, and maybe Robert Downey Jr. will get there eventually. His stick does get a little bit tiresome. I don't think it's as effective as it first was. And even I think Robert Downey Jr. says he has not given as good of a performance as he's done it the first time. Every time after that hasn't been as strong. I think he even admitted that, where I don't necessarily see that with Hugh Jackman. So I think I'll go with Hugh Jackman.
So that is 2 votes for Wolverine. Matt, we started this whole process all agreeing a lot. Are you going to go back to that, or are we going to have some dissenting opinions here towards the final?
Oh, I'm gonna have to be the voice of dissension probably from here on out and just get voted down every time, which is fine by me. I know that I've got weird tastes in everything. I think that's interesting that Dan said, Robert Downey Jr. said himself that he's probably giving less towards the end than he is at the beginning, because I feel like one of his best performances was Civil War, the most recent. I think he was amazing in that. Like
again, that might actually not be true, and maybe just something I've heard on the internet. So.
He's really trying. He's politicizing these brackets. This Dan guy.
Alternate performances is what I'm saying.
Because like that beginning, where he, he's young and his dad he does such a good job there being a different character, this like disaffected youth who doesn't have any love for his parents, like to being like this guy who's like an old man who's like upset about how his parents died. Like even just in that movie, his performance swings and is very moving. Like I really love him as Iron Man. And though I might not vote for him as Iron Man every single time in these brackets, like I think he edges out Hugh Jackman. I do. Hugh Jackman's most recent performance is right there on my mind. It's an amazing performance. It's one of his best of any movie, regardless of a superhero or not. But I think I'm going to try to not be swayed by just having seen it recently and give it to Robert Downey Jr. just a titch.
The interesting thing between these two is obviously we're getting two that have played the character for so long, and so many repeat performances. So we do have a pretty substantial body of work. I think the argument could be made that maybe Robert Downey Jr. had, or maybe Hugh Jackman. Wolverine is inherently more of an interesting character, right, than Iron Man in general. Or maybe an easier sell to the public because more people knew about Wolverine than they knew about Iron Man. So I don't know what that says about anything, maybe nothing. But man, I'm trying not to let the time period, obviously we just saw Logan, play too much a factor in that, but I think that is possibly what sways it towards Hugh Jackman a little bit, because it just added so much more, a whole nother layer to that character, which we maybe will get in the future from Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man. I do agree with Matt that he had some great moments in Civil War, but is he as consistently great as Hugh Jackman's been? Because like Dan was saying, and or Amanda, one of them said, even in the bad X-Men or Wolverine movies, Hugh Jackman is still good with that character. He pours everything into it every single time. Maybe Robert Downey Jr. is not. I'm torn on this one. I'm still not sure where I'm going to cast my vote. Shoot. I think I will slightly, just by the same margin that, Matt, you're saying Iron Man, I will say the same margin, but in Wolverine style. I think it maybe was an easier character to do. I don't know if that's even makes sense, but I think he's poured everything into it, regardless of what the film has been, and he just keeps adding layers to it all the way through to the end. So I'll vote Hugh Jackman for Wolverine. That means that our other matchup, interesting too, because Magneto, Michael Fassbender's had 3 films to play that character, and then we have our only character that has only been played in 1 film that's still alive in this tournament, as I guess at least, which is Heath Ledger's Joker against Michael Fassbender's Magneto. Amanda, last battle on the evil side here, Joker or Magneto?
That's crazy hard. By me first.
As it should be.
Jeez.
Ledger or Fassbender?
I like Michael Fassbender better as an actor, and I think that we saw, more arc in his character, more back and forth as his character, but we also, like you said, got more movies with Michael Fassbender. But can you even see an arc in the Joker? Because he is who he is, no matter what. So, man, I don't know.
Need a second?
Yeah.
Dan, help her out. Give her some sway one way or the other.
There's no doubt that Heath Ledger, his performance is probably one of the most iconic of all time, and maybe transcends the genre of comic book films like the movie Dark Knight does itself. there are just like small bits within that performance. I think you can pull out every time you watch it that are missed. Just some of the things he does, the ad libs and his actions. It's just even just his body movement. It's just on point. Everything he's doing. With that said, I think I'm going to go Fassbender, which maybe it's because of my being an X-Men homer or what have you. But like I said, I just think that like when I'm looking at performance and looking at character, looking at the idea of who embodies the character more. As Matt mentioned, the Joker that Heath Ledger is doing isn't necessarily. It's a different type of Joker. It's a different take on Joker, which we've all seen. Fassbender is doing a Magneto that it's earlier than we see in the comic. It's not one that's really portrayed in the comics, so he's given a little bit more wiggle room, but it's exactly kind of what I would expect the character of Magneto to be in those stories if there's ever a comic about it. He has that fierce attitude. He has just this anger that is just driving him, but still, he has moments where you can see that he's a person who's been beat up by life and dealt with just sheer tragedy every step he goes, from his parents dying in a concentration camp to his kids being killed accidentally. And just no matter what he does, bad things happen. And then he's been able to make those moments work. Even in X-Men Apocalypse, like you mentioned, Kevin, and some of the performances he shows within that, especially in the first half when he's with his family.
Right.
It's fantastic. And he's even comedic and stuff as well. So, Ledger's performance is great, and probably, people just assume it's like the best of all time. And I can see that. It's certainly a great supporting performance, and not that they take anything away. But if I'm looking at both the embodiment of what I would see in the character, what I would expect for that character, the performance, the longevity, every little checkbox, Fassbender has it. And I think it just, to me, I just feel more moved by what he's doing. I'm more terrified about what Ledger's doing, because that's kind of what the character's going for. But maybe just personal preference or what have you. But for me, it's Fassbender.
Matt, Amanda said she could still be swayed. Would you like to sway her in one way or the other?
Oh man, no. I think Dan's had a lot of great points. And I do think that the amount of movies that they've been in should be a factor here, because Heath Ledger did one and then he mic dropped out of this world. But if he had done another 2 or 3 or 6 movies, would it still be impressive? Because how much room does that character have to grow? How much could he have grown? Or would it just be oh, it's that Joker again, huh? Or just doing dark, gritty, anarchist Joker again, huh? I think he did an amazing job with the one movie. And no one can take that away from him. No one's ever going, anyone who's going to try to take that down is just being an internet person that we don't like. But Fassbender has he's gone through emotional depth. Dan has pointed it out time and time again. Every time Fassbender comes up against someone, Dan's got another thing to whip out, and I think he's right. I think Fassbender's just better. I think he embodies that character exactly how I would want, and has given us exactly what I would want. So I'm going. That's my vote.
I think for me, what it comes down to is, like I said, I think it was almost like the final round before, Loki versus Magneto. I think I would have voted for either one, even maybe ahead of Ledger. And it's not to take anything away from his performance. I think it was great, but like you said, does it embody the Joker, the character that you would think of? Maybe not. Does it have as much of an arc or depth, like Amanda was saying? That character is that character. So, what can it do? It's still a great performance, and it still is what makes that trilogy, I think, as highly regarded as it is. But I really think Magneto and Loki are both possibly the better villains as far as my take on I guess, the portrayal of the villain. But so I think I'm sticking with Magneto on this one. I think if he beats Loki, I think he beats Joker as well. So I think we were talking about who could take Joker down. I think Magneto would have the best chance. Amanda, Have we convinced you, or do you want to shed some love over to Heath Ledger?
No, I'm definitely going to go with the Fassbender. The Fass.
All right, so looks like we have our finals matchup set then. We have Wolverine versus Magneto. I don't know what that says about comic book movies in general and who's able to do what with their characters, but that's a matchup that we have. Dan, what do you think? Wolverine or Magneto?
This is really hard because you can kind of, there's a lot of similarities with what they've been able to do with both characters, and I never would have thought that Heath Ledger would be shut out in the semifinal round, but there you are. Man, this is tough. I really don't know where to go with this. But I think I've been riding the Fassbender train since the beginning. And I would say, if trying to find the cracks in the armor, which it's getting harder and harder. But I would say the one big crack is that Hugh Jackman has been in. Fassbender has not been in as many bad movies as Jackman has been in. And like I said, it's not necessarily Jackman's fault. I mean, like Origins. I mean, the Wolverine was. I actually like that movie, but the ending is kind of awful. X-Men 3, where Fassbender, X-Men Apocalypse is probably one of the weaker ones too, but Days of Future Past and both that of and First Class, man, I'm even debating that point. I'm even debating that point as I'm saying it out loud. Oh man!
I'd like to say that you're living up to your other show here. You're talking in circles, sir.
I am. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change it. I'm going to go Jackman. I was going to go Fassbender, but as more as I think about it, like my only argument was that he's in worse movies, but that doesn't even work really because it doesn't really pan out that way. But I think Jackman gives him the slight edge because he's been able to do much more with not much more, but more with the character, and I think he's had. He's the economy of the character of Wolverine, from his like berserker rage to his like more mentor father relationship he's able to have with someone like Laura and Logan. That he's hit both of those, and I mean he lives up to everything Wolverine I could ever want. As someone who loved the '90s X-Men series, the only thing I could ever say bad about him in those performances is maybe he's too tall, and it's something that he can't control. So I'm gonna go with Hugh Jackman and Logan.
Amanda, if you could only see one more movie featuring, and it would be either featuring Wolverine or Magneto, which movie would you rather see?
Yeah, that's kind of not fair, because if we're getting the same kind of Logan, it would be super painful to watch him be in pain all over again. So I'd like to see more Michael Fassbender as Magneto, but I'm okay with his ending with Logan. I think it rounded out really well for me. But as far as like what my pick would be, man, that's kind of hard, because what we saw with Wolverine, we saw so much be brought to his character, new stuff be brought to his character, but yet still stayed true. If we see Magneto, it's always the same kind of predictable pattern here. It's like he's a bad guy. Now he's a little bit good, but now something happens and he's right back to being bad. How many times do we need to see him go back and forth, bad to good, bad to good, bad to good? So maybe in that sense, I think I'm going to give it to Wolverine, because we know what we're going to get from Logan. We see him still grow, but we don't have this annoying back and forth all the time. Am I a good guy? Am I a bad guy? No, he's just, like Matt said before, he's not a good guy. He's a bad guy that just happens to do some good stuff to people that are worse than him.
Something we haven't done so far through the tournament is look to see how they got here. Wolverine took out J. Jonah Jameson, as played by J.K. Simmons. Followed that, he took out Deadpool by Ryan Reynolds, and then Iron Man by Robert Downey Jr. If we flip it to the other side, Magneto took out Doc Ock, perhaps the best Spider-Man villain we've ever gotten. Then he took out Loki, perhaps the best Marvel villain that we've ever had. And then he took out Heath Ledger's Joker, possibly one of the best DC villains we've ever had. Matt, what do you think, Wolverine or Magneto?
So I get what Amanda's saying, about he's bad, he's good, he's bad, he's good. But I think there's so much more nuance to that. Like, I feel like, like in Days, or not Days, in First Class, where he's like legitimately wants to do the best for people, for mutants, and then he's crushed, he comes from a bad place, but he still wants to do good, and then he's still, just the world is bad to him, and so he's going to be bad back, because that's the way that works. But then also in Apocalypse, where it's like, he's calmed down, he's gonna be a good guy now, he's not gonna be a hero, but he's gonna be a good man. And just that scene where his family dies and he just he wigs out is so good. I wish he would have had more time to settle down, more time to be a good guy, but I mean that's not on Fassbender. He as much as I disagree with that choice story wise, I think he brings to the table what needs to be brought to the table and makes it work. If you say, hey, who do you want to see one more time? I'm going to say Logan. I'm going to say Hugh Jackman. But that might just be because I don't want that to be done with. And I feel like I like Wolverine more as a character than Magneto, but that might just be I like heroes more than villains. But again, we're talking what actor plays this character in what movies, and I think I'm voting for Fassbender on this one.
All right, so Matt votes for Fassbender on this one. Dan, Amanda, what was your official vote for Wolverine?
Yes.
Dan, are you sticking with Wolverine? I know at first you were voting Fassbender.
I'm going to stick Wolverine for now.
Oh, man. All right, so that's 2 for Wolverine, 1 for Magneto. Yeah, I think Magneto's had the more impressive run through the tournament with taking out Loki, Doc Ock, and Joker. So he's got that going for him. I think there is a lot of nuance, like you're saying, Matt, but I don't think you can take away some of the nuance performances in Wolverine. But maybe there's not as many moments unless you count Logan, really, I guess. But I need to rewatch some of the original X-Men films. I haven't seen some of those in a long time. It's interesting because you have an anti-hero with Wolverine, and with Magneto, it's almost like anti-villain. It's almost like they're both kind of going back and forth some. I mean, they both do both good and bad things, so it's kind of an interesting comparison to try to break that down. I think you also have 2 incredible actors. I mean, Hugh Jackman and Michael Fassbender are both insanely talented actors, so you can't take anything away from either one of them on that front. Wolverine's had more movies to work with, so there's going to be some bad ones mixed in there as well as some good. But even in just 3 films, you could probably say that there's already been one somewhat subpar film in the Magneto and Michael Fassbender films as well. Which actor more portrays that character? I don't know if... I think Fassbender, you might be able to make the argument that he could be playing a different character and still be able to make some of those moments work and still be able to bring the performance to whatever villain he was playing. I don't think you can say that to Hugh Jackman. It's like Hugh Jackman and Wolverine are synonymous almost at this point. So maybe that would sway me somewhat towards Wolverine. Which performance would I rather see more? I'd rather see more Michael Fassbender as Magneto. But that's maybe not fair because we've seen the arc now for Wolverine and it's kind of come to a natural stopping point. So do you really want to see more of that?
So this is when you're talking in circles. Is that how that works?
Yes. Trying to come to a conclusion here. And I just like if you were doing a tally mark, if you were doing a score sheet, like for every tally you have on Wolverine's side, you could make a tally on Magneto's side for something completely different. So it's really hard to try to say which one performed it or portrayed the character better. I think the better performance, maybe Fassbender, but the better character, maybe Jackman. I will vote for Wolverine as maybe the better one. Pretty convincing? No. I'll vote for Wolverine because Why not? I think he's got the longer track record, so maybe that works in his favor as the ultimate deciding factor. And like you said, it didn't matter if it was a good or bad film, he was still putting us all into it, and he's still that character, and I can't see anybody else playing that character. I can see somebody else playing Magneto. His name's Ian McKellen. So, for whatever that's worth. All right, that means there's 3 votes for Wolverine, 1 vote for Magneto, which means our ultimate winner here in this comic book madness is Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Dan, any final thoughts on the whole process?
Yeah, maybe a little obvious, but yeah, it was tough. It was tough, I'm not going to lie. I felt bad about voting against Fassbender, but you know what? He fought a hard battle. He took out the juggernaut that was Heath Ledger as Loki, so maybe he was just too wounded to move on from that. So, yeah.
All right, Matt, did it go the way you thought it would go? I know you didn't know this was something we were doing today, but when I mentioned it, were you thinking Wolverine and Fassbender and the Joker? Are those the first 3 that came to your mind?
I definitely Wolverine and the Joker were going to be fan favorites. That said, I think I called it before the semifinals when I was like, yeah, I'm going to be the dissenter for the rest of these, and I'm going to lose, and that's exactly what happened. I don't feel terrible because both options at the end were good. They were both good options. I do wonder if we came back to this in a year or 2 years or 3 years, if we would have the same outcome. Right. Like how much of this is because of Logan being such an amazing movie, and that with time, if that'll change. But I don't regret my votes, and I don't regret the winner.
Yeah, I could. It wasn't that much of a dissenting opinion because I could have easily voted in your way and quite a few of those as well. So I don't think you were too far off. It comes down to maybe just the slightest of margins for certain things. Amanda, superhero films get the bad rap. A lot of people want to crap on them just because that's cool to do for certain circles. And I think a lot of times the performances don't get enough credit that they deserve. Did this kind of highlight for you how many good performances we've had over the years in comic book films?
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to fathom them all together and to decide whether we've had these, worthy performances, and seeing them, a smattering of them together, put together like this in this fashion, and these face-offs definitely showcases some of the better ones.
And just for the record, obviously, some people might be wanting to comment on the website or different things about, hey, how could you leave out this person, or how could you leave out that person? We knew it was going to go long enough with 16 people, but there were so many people that we were trying to break it down. I think, Dan, at one point we had over 30 different people we were trying to narrow it down from. So there's lots of other possibilities. There's other good performances out there. Maybe we could do something like this in the future, or like Matt said, years from now when there's even more films, there'd be more candidates. But for example, we don't have any of the Spider-Mans involved in this, maybe because nobody can decide who their favorite Spider-Man is. It seems like everybody has a different opinion on that, and we're about to get a new one this year, so maybe we would strike up another debate when it came to that. But there's a lot of good performances out there, even the ones that we didn't maybe highlight in this tournament, but hopefully we got some of the best or some of your favorite ones. If you agree or disagree with how it came down, if you want to share how your votes would have been or where you think we got it right or wrong, there's a lot of different ways to get in touch with us. First of all, you can go to the website, www.geekcastradio.com, find the episode post, comment there. I promise we will reply, and we can start up the conversation there. You can also email at feedback@geekcastradio.com. Just put the Cinema Geeks in the title so that they get it to us. And you can also visit the Facebook page by searching Geekcast Radio Network and stay up to date with all the different releases we do and all the different blogs we post. You can also interact with us at Twitter. The show handle is at Cinema Geekcast. My Twitter is at OptimusSolo. Amanda, your Twitter is?
At HardCandiMandi, eyes, no lies.
Dan, your Twitter is?
At MovieRevolt.
And Matt, your Twitter is?
I'm at Fridley Cent.
All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this little break and this fun March Madness style episode. We'll be back very soon with some more Hayao Miyazaki, some more video game films, and getting closer to our number one film of all time in our top 100 countdown. But that is it for us. Be sure to check in next week for another chance to listen to the Cinema Geeks.